talking about when do neutrals carry current? When do you count them as carrying conductors? What does the code book say about multi-wire branch circuits? What is a nonlinear load? And what does the inner workings of a transformer look like? How do you break it down? Why do you get 240 volts in your house? Things like that. So here we go. So when do neutrals count as current carrying? This is when they count. So first we got to look here. Neutral conductor shall be considered current carrying in accordance with any of the following. We got a neutral conductor that carries only the unbalanced current from the other conductors of the same circuit shall not be required to be counted. We're going to draw this out for you. In a 3-wire circuit containing 2-phase conductors and a neutral, you're going to see that it carries approximately the same amount of current. I'm going to show you why that is. And then on a 4-wire 3-phase circuit, where the major portion of the load consists of nonlinear loads, we're going to talk about what those are. I'm going to show you why they carry current. What you need to know. I did a short about this, and I don't know why, but this is, I don't know, controversy, right? We have about 12 current carrying. Now, I said they need to run a separate neutral. I'm not necessarily wrong. There's a bunch of different ways to do something. A lot of the chat said, I'm not going to run individual neutrals. It makes sense. We're going to talk about it. First thing we got to do is make sure that we got the chat active. Perfect. Okay. So,
6 current.
We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Whenever I was there, I counted about 12 hots inside this one pipe. This is what the code book says about 12 hots. Not even neutrals yet. What does 12 hots say? 10 to 20 current carrying conductors. It's going to be 50%. So you're going to go over here to your book. We're going to go over here to number 12, which is what they ran. We can use a 90-degree C column because of special rules in here. If we read where it talks about the rules here, I'd have to find it specifically for you. But you're allowed to use a 90-degree C column when doing this calculation. And you're going to see here 30 amps right there. So 50% of 30 amps is 15 amps. If we go to 240.6, 15 amps is a standard. It's not 16 amps, it's 15 amps. We can't go to the next standard size up. We fell on a standard size. We're stuck at 15. So 15 amp breakers it is for those guys. Now, what they can do, they could run number 10. They could run number 10. That would get them up to 40 amps. 50% of 40 is 20. 20 amp breakers it is all day. They would have to do a couple of things. Let's look at multi-wire branch circuits real quick. So if we go here to branch circuits, multi-wire branch circuits right here. Branch circuits are recognized by this article shall be permitted as multi-wire circuits. A multi-wire circuit shall be permitted to be considered as multiple circuits. All conductors of multi-wire branch circuits shall originate from the same panel board, meaning they all got to come from the same panel. If we look here at the disconnecting means, you're going to see each multi-wire branch circuit shall be provided with the means that will simultaneously disconnect all the conductors from where the circuit originates. If you share a neutral and you got multiple hots, you got to turn off all your hots at the same time. That's the way that I understand it. Multi-wire branch circuits shall supply line to neutral loads. Then you got to group them. So you can, when you group them inside the panel board, you can either use tie wraps or you can use numbers. And that's where it talks about identifying them there. Yeah. So let's get back to 310. I'm going to go back over here to 310. And look, if I'm wrong, someone let me know in the comments below, because this seems to be stirring up a lot of controversy. I'm not afraid of being wrong. If not, I wouldn't be here on camera potentially looking like an idiot. It doesn't bother me. It's my chance to learn, and you guys can learn from it if someone wants to correct me in the comments. But this is the way that I understand it. So if you see me draw something stupid, or you hear something that just does not sound right at all, let me know. Here we go. So we're going to draw this out with the black pencil, and I'm actually going to put you guys on a tripod now. I thought I was going to put you on a tripod. Hang on. Cheers, sir. What's up, Budzilla? I think that's going to get us right there. Beautiful. Okay. Here we go. We're going to draw a single phase first. So it's going to look like this. This is going to be the transformer windings, if you will. This is going to be, it's not A and B because this is going to be for single phase. So you've got a center kind of tap, which is your neutral here. This is the neutral. And then from this point here, you get 120. It's a leg. And here you get 120. You don't really have A and B on a single phase at your house. So we can even draw that in red. But if this was your house and this was your neutral and we ran one hot out and we continued the neutral out and we went to a light, if we will, we'll just say a light, and this light was pulling, let's just say it pulls 10 amps here, you're going to return with 10 amps. And this neutral is going to be current carrying. Okay. If we did a 3-phase, or we can continue on single phase. If we ran the other leg out and we did this, where, forget this light, if we ran, this is still the neutral, it's the red neutral. Forget the light. We ran this here and we used one neutral here, and now we also got red and blue, right? So these dots are neutrals and these are hots, and we have the light. This neutral is now shared, so it cancels each other out, and you're not going to get any current on your neutral because it's going to jump over here to the other conductor. That's just the way it works. So your neutrals will cancel each other out if you're sharing them. So let me show you what the code book says about sharing the neutral. Neutral conductors that carry only the unbalanced current from the other conductors of the same circuit shall not be required to be counted when applying the provisions. So this would be a neutral that's carrying the current from the same circuit. Now, one thing about this, the way that I see it, someone please let me know if I'm wrong. I'm about to check the comments. In your panel, if you're sharing a neutral with two hots, you have to have a handle tie. That's the way that I understand it. So when I see a panel without a handle tie, my first thought is they're obviously single circuits and you need to pull a neutral for each individual one. If you don't have a handle tie, you need to pull a separate neutral, because if we turn off, let's put some breakers in this. Let's put this at the panel. This is a panel, okay? And this is a breaker for this circuit. We'll call this, we'll just make it easy for people at home. We'll say 1 and circuit 3, even though the colors are off. Don't judge me on the colors. We're just going off of whatever, okay? Circuit 1, which would usually be black, and circuit 3, which would usually be red, I know. If we turn off this one breaker here, this is off now. This breaker is still on, so you're still pulling 10 amps. So now this neutral is current carrying. So we got two necessities here. One, we need to simultaneously disconnect. That way you can work safely in this box, because you don't want to consider this current carrying because you're sharing the neutral, and you don't have to per the code. But if you turn off one of these breakers by itself, now this becomes current carrying because you're no longer carrying the imbalance. You've turned this into a full single phase, not single phase, but 120/, neutral, just circuit where you're back to the same boat as what we started with. So if you turn the circuit off, this is still backfeeding current on the neutral, and electricians get hurt by this all the time. So you got to simultaneously disconnect with the handle tie. That way you shut off both of these. That way if you want to work on this circuit, specifically on the neutral inside of a junction box where there's a wire nut, you can safely do so. All right, let's look at a three-phase. Let me check. Let me check the chat. What's up, Einstein? Give me some stuff from the depot today. I'm addicted to buying stuff for sure. Time to learn, gentlemen. Gentlemen, teach me how to make a fin cart. Awesome to catch one live. Finally, nice, Todd. He's awesome. I found him on Tools with Souls earlier in my tool journal. I appreciate all the support. Arizona's awesome too. He has a great energy, man. AZ. Oh, Souls. Yeah. Talking electric makes me feel dumb. The day that ends with why I'm live. Yeah. What's going on? First timer here. Nishi's very welcome. I'm going to try to get this back on. Okay. So we're caught up with the chat. That's the way that I understand it. So that's why we get 240 here at your house. You don't have A and B. You have a split kind of phase, if you will, where the neutral's in between. Also, by the way, and really important, your ground is also right there. And then your ground wire goes out. And the importance of your ground wire is to get current back to the neutral, back to the source. So we run a ground at your panel. Your ground doesn't actually start at the transformer. Your ground is the neutral, because this is got a ground rod at the utility. So if we're to draw this out, we would have our transformer, we'd have our neutral, we'd have our ground, and then we'd have, I'm just going to call it A and B for now, just to make it quick. And then we would go to the weather head, whatever, I'll just draw out the weather head, and then we would go to our first means of disconnect here. And inside of here, we would have a ground bar and a neutral bar, and you'll notice that they're touching. I'm not going to draw the hots for simplicity. And then when you run out to your sub panel, you have 3 wires, or four wires, I guess. You'd have 2 hots. Right, the hots went there. And then you have your ground and your neutral, and they get separated. Ground and neutral get separated. And then if we came off of a breaker here and we went to a receptacle with a box, the box would be grounded here. That would be our hot, and then our neutral would go on the other side of this receptacle. What happens is when you have a fault, the current gets on the case, gets to the ground, and gets on the neutral, and then goes back through the windings of the transformer, comes back on the hot, finds that breaker and trips it. You can't trip a 20 amp breaker based on 25 ohms to ground. So that's how all that works. 120. I told you I was going to explain it. There you go. Okay, let's get this out of here. Let's look at 3-phase, because it's a little bit different. This is the situation that we're running into. I know my thumbnail, I jacked up the freaking 3-phase thing. It's okay. This is A, this is B, this is C. We got our neutral here, and we've also got our ground also in the center there. This is a Y system. This will get you 120/208, and you can also get B phase on your neutral. We'll worry about that later. No, sorry, you won't get B phase on the delta. This is 120/208 is what this is. You're not going to have a high leg on this. I can explain that later. So we got B is red, black is A, black, red, blue, whatever. Drew it backwards. Awesome. It's live. And then we got our neutral. Right. Now, if all 3 of these are in phase and we're in a junction box or something, these will all cancel each other out because they are essentially 120 degrees in phase. So That's 120 degrees. We're going to look at the sine wave now. The sine wave goes like this, right? And it has peaks and it has lows, and that's doing that 60 times a second. I'm going to check the chat here in a second. So as it peaks, it's alternating between these three constantly. That's why we can cancel out our neutral. So if you pull a neutral to a junction box from your panel, you would be looking at these three hots, and you could have hots on all three of these. You could have loads on all three of these hots and put a neutral on them, and they're going to cancel each other out to where you're going to be counting 0 on this neutral. So let's look at that. On a 4-wire 3-phase Y circuit, where the major portion of the load consists of nonlinear loads, harmonic currents are present in the neutral conductor. The neutral conductor shall therefore be considered current carrying. We're going to talk about that in a second. But in a normal system, when you leave your panel, this neutral is not going to be carrying anything to your junction box. But these three hots, so when you're counting your current carrying conductors, this will count as 3 current carrying. 3C current carrying conductor, 3,3CC. Okay. If we were to look at this, we would count because they're single phase. We would count the hot and the neutral on the first situation. This would be 2 current carrying because your hot and your neutral had equal current. You had your hot coming in at 10 amps and you had your neutral coming back at 10 amps. If we're looking at both of these, that's how you count your current carrying. That's why typically you can't have more than 3 Romexes per connector, because you're going to wind up with 6 current carrying. Anything more than that, 4 to 6 in the code, is 70%. 7 to 9 current carrying conductors put you at 70%. So that's one reason why you can't have so many Romexes per connector, because you have a lot of 120 volt loads with individual neutrals, because a Romex has individual neutrals. So let's look at what happens if we were to take 2 of these hots with a neutral. So what we're going to look at in a 3-wire circuit consisting of 2 phase conductors. So we're going to have 2 hots, 3-wire circuit, meaning 3 current carrying conductors, forget the ground. So 3-wire circuit, 1 neutral, 2 hots. 2 of the phase conductors and the neutral of a 4-wire 3-phase Y connected system, the common conductor carries approximately the same current as the line to neutral loads and shall be counted. So what does that look like? That looks like this. And I'm going to explain it with the sine wave here in a second. And by the way, when you're looking at the sine wave, you've got, well, they're out of phase, right? You got a blue and you got a red, like that. So you got one going one way, one going the other way, one going the other way. They're constantly canceling each other out. Forgot to mention that. If we've got 3-wire circuit, and it's 3-phase, but we didn't use the black, right? So this is I've got to stop putting this out of order. Here, there, A, B, C, like that. And we were to use this neutral to share these 2 loads. So if we had, I'm gonna draw this like this too. So we're gonna have blue coming in like this. This is the best way to show this. Neutral, sorry. I'm really messing up here, man. Sorry. Try again. A, B, C, neutral, dot, 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 C, we're not going to use A, B is red, holy moly, and then C is blue. Okay, there we go. That's better. And we're sharing this neutral, so you're going to see this neutral is going to have a little bit of blue and a little bit of red in it to show the current. That's kind of the best way to do this. And we went to a light here, and we went to a light here, like this. So we took C to neutral for the light to power it, and we wound up getting current for both systems, both phases, if you will, back to the source here. So we went B to the neutral. This is 120 volts. And we went C to neutral. That's also 120 volts. It's not a double pole circuit where you're getting 240 because we're using the neutral. We're just sharing the neutral across this. You're going to see that we're going to take the current of both of these and combine them into this neutral. That's what they're talking about. I probably could have drawn that a little bit better, but I'm going to read it again. In a 3-wire circuit consisting of 2 phase conductors and the neutral conductor of a 4-wire 3-phase Y-connected system. So I'm going to break that down. It's a 3-wire circuit. This is our 3-wire circuit, 1, 2, 3. Okay. 3-wire circuit consisting of 2 phase conductors, which we had the blue and the red, and the neutral. We also showed that of a 4-wire 3-phase Y-connected system. This is a 4-wire 3-phase Y-connected system. We showed you the transformer earlier. So this is what's going on here. It says here, the line to neutral currents of the other conductor shall be counted when applying the provisions. So this is exactly what they're talking about. And the reason for that is because of that sine wave that we showed earlier, where you've got this number going on, right? You got them all. Well, they're not going to be in phase because you're only using 2 of these. So this is at 120 degrees. This is getting kind of technical, but this is why. This is 120 degrees, and they're out of phase. They're not able to cancel the neutral out. If you had A here, this would all be in phase, and this neutral would cancel itself out because the current would be able to go back on each of them, and it would be a net of 0. But in this case, when you only take 2 of the hots and not all of the hots, you wind up putting current on your neutral when you take 2 of the phases. And yes, absolutely, this should be a double pole breaker. It's the same. Nothing's changed here. Got to be a double pole breaker. If you're using one neutral and you got multiple hots, you need a double pole breaker or a 3-pole breaker. Someone let me know, because when I did this in the field, man, I didn't share neutrals. You know, we ran a lot of nonlinear loads. I'm going to show you what a nonlinear load is, and then we're going to get out of here. Nonlinear load. On a 4-wire 3-phase Y circuit, where the major portion of the load consists of nonlinear loads, harmonic currents are present in the neutral conductor. The neutral conductor shall therefore be considered current carrying. Okay, it all goes back to the sine wave. If we look at the sine wave, and this would be a in phase sine wave like this, right? When you have harmonic loads, when you have LED lights, you've got automatic variable frequencies, and this is based on 60 hertz. So anytime you get into different hertz, you're already not going to be a linear load. But a good example of a linear load would be resistive heat. It would be an incandescent light bulb, a motor that doesn't have variable speed on it. That would be nonlinear. Pretty much everything that we power nowadays has nonlinear loads. Let me check the chat. Loads in harmony, yeah. All right. Let me check the chat to see if I am wrong. I see Ghost Blue here. Hang on. Let's see here. First timer here. Okay. That's why you work everything like it's hot, even if you know it's not. Yeah, exactly. What's going on? Okay, I can actually do this. All right, so nice to see you. A grounded box helped the last step. Stand up. Random question. Any recommendations for foam for inside of boxes? Foam for inside of boxes. Like fire caulking like foam? Or you have to elaborate on that one. Damn big fingers. Three-phase goodness here. What's up, Budsville? Chillin', man. Gonna have the garden going soon. Nice. Three-phase doesn't need neutral technically. Three-phase loads don't. Three-phase power does, because just like I showed you at this detail, you still got to get current back to the source. So without the neutral, can't get it. I was doing a temporary inspection for a crane, and they didn't pull a neutral to the transformer, and they didn't have a neutral in the main disconnect. And I flat out asked the guy, I was like, hey, I got a really stupid question for you. How are you going to clear a ground fault? And he looked at me for a second and he thought, and he was like, oh yeah, I need the neutral. Because yeah, you can't get current back to the source from the ground unless you got a neutral to flow back through the windings. So you don't need neutral for three-phase loads, but you do need neutrals for three-phase in-phase circuits, but not three-phase loads. That's a single-phase load. In-phase circuits, but not three-phase loads. All right, back to the chat. I work in Southern California, Edison, California. Utility Commission has a rule. They call it GO95. There's one rule where they say open delta transformers should not be feeding. They say open delta transformers should not be feeding. They're saying they want to get rid of them because they're dangerous. They should just use them for utility. Is that your thought? They shouldn't be feeding buildings? I agree with that. Can't really use B-phase. The eye looks brand new now. 3 hots. Yes, exactly. 3 hots and a ground alternating phases return neutral at 120. For a 3-phase load, yes. I have an amazing powers recovery. Good evening. What's up, Stephen B? 120, 240 single phase and 3 wire panels with 3-phase. So whatever we come across scenarios, we want to have to redesign installing single potential for 120, 240 single pole and open delta for 3-wire 3-phase. Yeah, I think that's what I was guessing. What now, whiteboard? Curious to know the reason. I was thinking about making a couple of benches. Nice. Honestly, just because electrical makes me feel done, I'm not trying to put that on you. The price of furniture, crazy, wacky prices for sure. Build it. Chicken coop. I wonder if this would relate to looking at the pigtail on a wall oven today. Just noticed it's live. I looked at the connector I would have used for a cooktop, and these two were not the same. I wonder if this would relate to looking at the pigtail on a wall oven today. I just noticed, oh, this is live, yeah. Nice. I looked at the connector I would have used for the cooktop on these two were not the same. Gotcha. I made assumption that the load needs to test would not be adequate. I'm going to get to the chat, probably get back to that one. So I saw one 220 connector with a single red, white, and black, and the pigtail with a double black connected, neutral, double white, and red. We're going to go back to that. I was thinking about building some chairs, cabinets, watch many videos. Sorry guys, I'm trying to keep up with the chat. Return path. Doesn't the transformer make their own neutral? Yes. Yes, the transformer makes its own neutral. That's why it's the source. So you must be able to get your ground back to the neutral. Your ground only really exists because anything likely to become energized must be bonded back to the source, which is the neutral. So your whole equipment ground is based on getting current back to your neutral. You're building steel, your cold water, your UFR. It's kind of like an equipotential plane, kind of like a pool. You're trying to make everything the same potential, and you're trying to get everything to be the same voltage as the neutral, if you will. So your ground only really exists for the sole purpose of a ground fault, which is really the neutral, because the neutral is a grounded conductor. So we wouldn't even have ground wires if we didn't have to worry about potentially energizing things that can get energized, metal, whatever it is. So your neutral is back to the source, and it's essentially 0 volts in the system. So you take your grounds to get current back to the neutral. Okay. Let's see here. So let's look at the nonlinear loads. And then I'm going to take a stab at what you're talking about, the oven plug. I'm just going to take a stab. I didn't read the comments completely. My guess would be that you opened an oven. I guess we're looking at the oven first. Damn ADHD. The oven, you had a neutral terminal. You had a black, which was L1, or not L1, but 1. I don't know. I'm just going to call it A, whatever. And then you had B, and then you had your ground here. If you ran a cord and your cord had a black, a red, a neutral to it, and a separate ground, which I don't have green, so we're just going to draw it squiggly, right? You would run these all separate to where they go like this. Your neutral goes to your neutral, red goes to your red, and black goes to your black, and you leave it the hell alone. If you have a 3-wire cord, if you will, and you don't have a neutral, likely you're going to jumper your neutral and ground together. And that's for older, because, you know, as a building inspector, we're not appliance inspectors. So I always tell customers or contractors, whatever you want to call it, you know, if they're remodeling their laundry room and they've got one of these outlets, it looks like this. I'm going to draw this wrong. I'm really going to draw this wrong. I think it's like that. I cannot remember. If they've got this is going to be the neutral, or the ground, sorry, ground, and then that's one hot of 120. That's another hot of the other side, right? As long as they don't touch the wiring and they don't change the plug out, it's fine to stay existing. But the second they change this plug out, we know the wire coming from the panel does not have a neutral. And that's a false sense of security, because someone's going to plug in a 4-wire cord into this 4-wire receptacle, but there's only 3 wires feeding this plug as far as the building goes. And then you haven't jumpered your ground and neutral together. And you got a problem. There's a reason why they stopped jumpering these together, by the way. But if you got an older house and you've only got 3, it is what it is. That's when you jumper that. But if you got a 4-wire here in your cord, this is the cord, and you got a 4-wire at your receptacle, and if you wanted to go look at your panel and make sure you got 4 wires coming out, or you got 4 wires coming into this receptacle, that wouldn't hurt, but it's still allowed to jumper the ground. But you got to do it. So I'm really good at over explaining. Yeah, appreciate it. What else we got? I'm hardwiring in this case, though. Same thing. 4 wires. Make sure your building supplied 4 wires if you're going to hardwire 4 wires. If your building supplied 3 wires, then you might have to do the jumper. The instructions will tell you all that stuff. Jumping the ground to the neutral is new to me, but I'm used to it. That's something they've been doing for years in older appliances. I don't recommend it. I'd recommend you do the right thing and run the proper thing. But a lot of those appliances need a neutral because they have clocks and transformers and things like that. So So a lot of those appliances need 120, and you can't get it with just 2 hots. And they don't want to use the ground. Lost you at wiring? Yeah. Jump the neutral ground. I did read that about, yeah. Yep. Open the oven. Okay. Rear cut up. Okay. Let's get back here to the nonlinear load. What the code says about nonlinear loads. It says major portion right there, major portion. Okay. So major portion means the majority. So if majority of your load on that circuit is nonlinear, which if it's a light, if it's LED lighting, if it's computers, if it's just about anything nowadays, you got to count the neutral as current carrying. So as much as these old school electricians don't like it, everything is just about nonlinear. And until somebody really nails that home and says, hey, stop saying that everything's nonlinear, they need to put a better definition on nonlinear, because from what I understand, that's going to be everything. So your sine wave looks like this in a linear load, and your sine wave can look anything like this, where you get little spikes here, you know, or it can look like this, where it waits a little bit and then it goes up, and then it waits and then it goes up. And if you've got any of that, which will happen when you have LED lighting, heavy computer loads, variable speed, things like that, if you're not an incandescent or a heater or just a full-on straight motor load, chances are that's what your load looks like under an oscilloscope. So the code says to count the neutral as current carrying. So when I go to a gym, for example, or something like that, and those breakers all go to LED lights, I already know that their sine wave is going to look like one of these and not one of these. So that's just me. Let's look at there. That's what we're talking about. So he's got only 4 neutrals there for 12 hots. I guess it was pretty bold of me to consider those current carrying, but you know what? Until they get handle ties, like we talked about before, until they get handle ties on this, these are single pole circuits, and they need more neutrals because there's no handle ties. Yo, I think I saw a guy through your window. I don't have any windows in here. Maybe that guy. Yeah, that was fun lesson as an apprentice, finding out it was exposed. Okay, let's see here. Trying to catch up in the chat. What's up, Juan? I'm working on making a board for my miter gauge. Nice. Okay. Well, appreciate it, man. These are super thick. Super thick. You wanna take them for a test drive? Let me see which eye's messed up more. The right eye. No, yeah, the right eye. Here you go. Have fun with that. Yo, what's up, Juan? Hey, we're gonna get out of here though. So appreciate all the support. See you guys in the next one. Later.